2017. And I call to order the notice is filed for a special City Council meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. And the City Council seating is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, Successor Agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the Victorville Housing Trust. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Gomez.
Good evening.
Councilmember Kennedy.
Here.
Councilmember Negrete is absent from the workshop. Mayor Pro Tem Cox.
Here.
Mayor Garcia.
Here. We have an agenda today, agenda number 1, which is the only one that we do have. City Council workshop to discuss and provide input and direction to staff on the form and content of the draft Council Policy Manual and discussion of related revisions to and consolidation of portions of Victorville Municipal Code Chapter 2.20 into the Council Policy Manual. The recommendation will be at the discretion of the City Council. I will turn it over to our City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. If I might recommend, though, we do have public comment on there. If you just, for the record, ask for public comment if there is any, and we can then hopefully close the public comment portion.
I was going to leave until...
Oh, you can do it at the end. That's fine. Not a problem. All right. This is a follow-up to prior agenda items that we had placed on the agenda, which was to basically try and reconcile a lot of the city policies and procedures that are contained in the municipal code and also in various resolutions that the City Council adopted over the last 20, 30 years. 40 years. To try and put everything into one place, into a policy manual. We previously put a proposed policy manual on the agenda back in, remember when it was, earlier this year. And I think Council's direction at that time was to request that we do some form of a workshop so that we can address some of the concerns of the Council members with respect to those policies and concerns. One of the triggering items that required us to actually look at doing this was direct conflicts between the municipal code and Rosenberg's. And in fact, Rosenberg's is the mechanism by which you run your meetings. And we have provisions in the current municipal code that are actually in direct conflict with it. While it says that Rosenberg's is to be followed, you then have existing provisions that directly conflict what Rosenberg's does. And the one item where that became very evident was with respect to replacing or reconsidering items that had already been decided by the Council. So we looked at the code based on when that conflict arose, and as a result of that, and then also looking at several of the policies that have been adopted, decided that the best place, and what a lot of other cities do, to make it easy for, basically for the benefit of the public, for transparency purposes, is to put it all into one document, a comprehensive policy manual, and that way you can adopt it by resolution at some point. We then have to amend the municipal code and take out the conflicting provisions of the municipal code. And this allows you to make changes a little more frequently by resolution as opposed to going through all of the more cumbersome provisions of a municipal code amendment, which requires ordinance, et cetera, hearings, and all of those things. I know you probably haven't had a lot of time to review these policies. A lot of these policies are basically pulled directly out of your municipal code and just put into this document, so there's not a lot of change. But there are some areas where we need some direction. We want to get some direction as to some of the items in terms of how you want us to structure this, and then assuming you all want to do this, we will then get it onto a future agenda for adoption. We will also then put an ordinance on that cleans up the existing municipal code, and again, the motivation here is to clean up, get rid of inconsistencies, and to make and provide a document that the public can read, that you can read, and have a set of rules you will follow, so everybody sort of knows, when the rules aren't being followed. With that, I don't know if you have any immediate questions or not. Maybe the easiest thing to do is to go through sort of the different categories in the policy manual and see if you have comments, concerns, or motivations. But yes, Jim.
If you're going to go through the different ones, you'll get to it. So I'll get out of turn.
Yeah, so Chapter 2.20, Title 2 of the Victorville Municipal Code remains in full force and effect until such resolution contains or we adopt the manual of policies. So with that stated, I'm requiring that the full ordinance be read in full, and that's those stands given by Title 2, Chapter 2.20.208. So I'm requesting that Carol Lee read the entire ordinance 2367 from this point on.
What ordinance are you talking about?
The one that we saw in full force. So I titled Title 2, Chapter 2.
We don't have an ordinance on the agenda tonight.
So we have ordinance 2367. That's what was on the.
Oh, okay, this one. Okay.
So I'm asking for codified law to precede what anyone else would say thereafter.
Well, Jack, read the whole.
Exactly.
Why?
Well, actually, there's no ordinance in front of you all at this time, at this
Whether it's
meeting.
an ordinance or a resolution. And that's
We're not asking for any action tonight on the ordinance or resolution. All we're doing is having a workshop to get comments from all of you council members as to what you want. This would come on a future agenda.
Right, and so I'm requesting to have it fully read.
Okay, but the appropriate time to do that would be when it's on the agenda.
So this is not a special meeting. That's an agenda that's open to the public. Is that what you're telling me?
This is an open meeting to the public, the purposes of which are to receive comments with respect to the draft policy manual. We're not asking for any direction other than comments. This will have to come back to the council, assuming you all want to do it, at a subsequent meeting, and at that point there will be an ordinance on the agenda or a policy manual for you to consider.
In order for us to be able to discuss this, like I said municipal code codified as Title 2, Chapter 2.20. I don't know if you want to address it, go to it.
I know what it is.
2.280. It says if a council member requests to
Right,
have
I
this
know what it says, yeah.
read, there's a possibility to have that done.
Exactly.
So are you denying the fact that I'm asking for this to be read in full so we can be able to go line by line, because that's the purpose of today's workshop?
No, I'm saying that your request is premature. That's not on the agenda tonight. There is no ordinance to be read tonight.
But there is a municipal code that we're going to go through today, whether it's an ordinance or resolution.
We're not taking any action on it. We're just getting comments on a policy manual. Certainly, I think the council hears your request is when this ordinance comes before you want the entire ordinance read. I don't have a problem with that at all. I don't think any council members have a
So
problem.
then can you give me a handbook that shows what you just directed me to do? Because as a new council member, I have had no direction whatsoever on how these resolutions come about, on how hearings come about, how anything in the council comes about, and I've been here for 6 months. So I'm left lingering without anyone to help mentor me. So as I speak and I use my own intellectual knowledge to bring forth what I think should be respected is not. So I would direct you to give me handbook, to give me orders,
Okay.
so I can be able to understand what is actually happening.
Sure.
Because as city council, we are your boss.
Sure, absolutely.
City council,
I have a problem with that.
City attorney and the city manager, and that hasn't been the case.
Okay, I have no problem with that. What I'm trying to explain here is there are no actions on the agenda tonight in this workshop to take any action on. There's no ordinance to be read tonight. All we're seeking is we have a draft policy manual. We're asking for your comments as to what you want in that manual or what you don't want in that manual.
We will continue.
Can we move on?
Move on.
Do you actually want to go through each section, Andre?
I don't, if you all have comments or if you generally think it's okay or just have areas, we don't need to go through it page by page. It's whatever the pleasure is of the council.
Yeah, I'm going to be going line by line.
All right.
I'm going to be reading it, since Carly won't be reading it. That'll be my prerogative. So
Okay.
if anybody would like to take the floor before I continue, I would go ahead and let anybody else go.
Well,
before
I'm
me.
going to say this. I have no interest in reviewing it line by line, and I'm not going to sit here while you read it line by line.
Point of order.
I've got
This
other
is my
things to do.
request as I make this to happen today.
Well, you don't dictate to this council.
No
So
one is dictating.
can we get an agreement as to whether we're going to go through it line by line, or can we just pose questions if we have
We
questions?
just pose questions.
You may sit here and read it line by line until you...
We did. When Mr. Cox went that motion, I said I would be going through it line by line during the hearing moment, and that was the only reason why I would not go line by line during the hearing moment. And so it was motioned and it was made, and now this is the workshop.
What motion?
And if you want to go back to reading the agenda on June 6th or whatever
What
that
motion?
date that was, you can go back and see that this is why we're having something today, because we were going to go line by line. So I don't know if you guys recall any of this, but I certainly did. That's why I relinquished the fact that I was going to be reading line by line during that public hearing.
Okay, if I can clarify, at the prior meeting, we did have a draft ordinance on the agenda. It wasn't included in, I think, the package today, but it was on the prior agenda, and I do recall Ms. Gomez wanted to go through and make comments on each line of the ordinance, which is related to policy manual. So if you want to do that,
I don't want to do that.
That wasn't coming to a vote. That was the agreement that we did. That's why the motion was made.
If we can deal with questions, comments on specific items, I'd be interested in continuing, but I'm not going to sit here while you read through this line by line.
Well,
It's not going to.
then if we can go back to make this a hearing, I have no issue with what you're just making and making a motion. I would do this during a public hearing and go line by line. Whatever is your desire, but this is why we have this meeting today, line by line.
I don't agree. If that's why we're having it.
I am just in the dark. Mr. Attorney.
well, I think when this was on
Is there a
the...
motion that said we're going to read it line by line?
Yes.
No, I think the motion was, and I have to ask Kelly, was to have a workshop. But the concern of Councilmember Gomez was that she had comments line by line on the ordinance of that agenda, and that's why she wanted to have a workshop on it.
We're having a workshop.
So we could hear the comments and go through it real quick. It's up to you. That's the purpose of the workshop, is to get direction.
We're not going line by line. We will briefly go through every section, but not line by line, and if we have any questions, we bring them up.
I just had an obvious question about public comment periods. We don't specify any time frame. Is there a reason for that?
We wanted to get your direction. It's been 3 minutes, and we assume that that's what the council members want to continue to have, is 3 minutes, and now you have a policy that you have adopted that says 5 minutes with respect to council member comments. So we would incorporate that into this policy manual if that's your desire.
Yeah, I saw that on council member comments, but
What time did you say?
council member comments is on page 9. Public comments is on page 7. Public comment, I think the mayor should have some flexibility depending on the item, to maybe extend the time, but I think it would make sense to say generally we restrict public comment to 3 minutes per speaker. Something like
Are you on
And actually, I think public comment is in a couple different
page
places,
19?
which is part
It's
of
on
the
page
way that
19.
we're trying to
I'm on
lobby
page
this.
7.
Yeah, there's one where we sort of talking about what does the agenda, how does it look in general, the order of things, and then later on we sort of get into the more nitty gritty. That's in
Okay, so
the chapter 5 on page
19.
19.
We have a 3 minute
Capital
provision in there.
letter G, you've got your public participation
Okay.
on 19.
How do you want to proceed? How are we going to proceed?
Well, it's up to you, obviously. This is the time. What I'm hearing Councilmember Gomez indicate, which is her right to do, is that if we don't take her comments in this workshop form, she's going to, and she will have the right in the public meeting to go through it line by line at the public meeting.
Has the right to go through it, have the right to request it.
Well, it's a public hearing, so she can make comments on it. It'll be a public hearing item because you're adopting an ordinance.
She's limited to time.
It's not,
It could take 2 hours if she wanted to.
if you adopt a policy that limits public comment on public hearings, you would, but we've never done that today.
Do we have the right for one council member to make decisions of that nature?
Well, the council members have the ability to ask questions, absolutely, with respect to agenda items, get information on agenda items. You've never had a limitation on that today. So the alternative is to do it in a workshop environment.
Council has the right to ask questions on any item. I'm just not understanding why a person wants to go line by line. If they have a question, line by line. If I had a question, I'd be submitting it to you for a legal answer.
Right.
Or administration for a legal answer. if I wanted to grandstand public, I'd ask to go to line by line. It's a public document, people can read it.
Right.
I don't understand why we would do that.
State law requires it.
I can have it that way. But it is, it's that.
Well,
But it does say at the time of adoption, which we're not really adopting anything right now.
we're not adopting anything right now. So
So that's my only point.
your options right now, as I see it, is to have a discussion and go through it line by line at this point, or do it at a council meeting.
Well, if we do it at a council meeting, it's when we have the business at hand. We normally start at 6 o'clock, and we're here at 3, and so let's try it and see what happens.
Okay.
You know,
That's up to you.
But I'm just trying to figure out the purpose of it. If there's a good purpose, I'm all for it. So far, I don't see it.
We just go through every section, and if we have questions, we ask.
Well, that's what I understood the attorney was going to do.
We were going to go through the policy manual. Councilman Gomez wants to go through the ordinance that was attached to it back when it was on the agenda back in April, May.
Well, I don't have that. I have listed it.
It's at the very front of the packet.
We just gave everyone the staff report from the prior
Yeah.
meeting.
Oh,
It's essentially, it's about 7 or 8 pages.
Provide context.
Seven or 8 pages.
What we're here to do is to look at this policy manual that starts on page I and goes through page 31 and see if there's anything in it that we want to do differently. Am I missing something?
Correct. The policy manual, though, does require us to make amendments to the municipal code, which is in the ordinance, and Councilmember Gomez wants to address the deletions and the additions that are in the ordinance. So you can either do that tonight, or you can do it at a council meeting.
okay. Question. From purely a point of view of having this to be understood, wouldn't we go through the policy first, and then you would go through the ordinance of why you delete it or not? I mean, why would we go through the ordinance first if we haven't addressed the policy manual yet?
That is,
Or maybe that
right.
leads to the suggestion.
That's up to your
I don't
discretion.
care. I'm just, if she wants to go line by line, I can tell you that if it makes sense and has a reason to do it, I'm willing to sit here and listen to it. But if there's no reason at all, then I'm not sure anybody would be left in the road. It's that way.
Mayor Pro Tem Cox, I respect your decision. That's your personal decision, just like I have my personal decision. That's why we're elected by a group of people, because we represent a different constituency
I know why
and their
I'm
ways of
elected. I don't need to
thinking. So
be
I
preached to
appreciate the
anybody.
fact that you're saying that you do not agree with me. Thank you for letting me know. There's many things that we may not agree on, and there's many others that we should work together to represent best at large our community. And this may be one of them.
So let's work right together. Why do you want to go line by
It's not why I want to. What it is we requested as a motion to please have this here, and this is what we're doing, but now it looks like that could be a different motive. You're going to adopt this political or this manual as a majority. Clearly, I'm the minority, so at least I can have a voice spoken.
I don't care how many times you say it's aimed at you, it's not, okay?
I didn't say it was aimed at me. I said there's a minority voice that would like to speak. We've already allotted 20 minutes to understand why it is that we even want to speak about this. I don't know if I should just continue, yield the floor, give it back to you. I'm trying to respect your time, but I also would like to get started.
We're not going line by line. We are going item by item, and if you have questions,
You're welcome to do that, Mayor.
Well, but, before we have a choice, as I understand the attorney, by law, that we either go line by line now, or any member can request at the time of the public hearing. We go line by line, and we have to do that. As a council, we have to do that. Is that a yes or no?
You don't have to do it. You could adopt a policy that says and put some limitation on that, but you have no policy in place at this point that would limit council members. You've always allowed council members to speak as long as they want to on public hearing items in the past.
And mind you, this is not directed for me or to me, right?
Correct.
Just as you have said. So
Correct.
now you want to limit my time. But before that
I don't wanna limit
adoption,
your
I have the
time.
right to speak.
I want to limit the nonsense.
Well, I'm not limiting your nonsense. So maybe, if we're not gonna vote on this, I don't even understand, maybe you don't even have to be in the room. We're just gonna go line by line, maybe we just need 2, 3 people.
Which line by line do you want to go? The ones that are being stricken from the ordinance or the policy manual? What do you
If I
want to
can
do line
begin,
by
I had
line?
everything written down.
Okay.
I took the
Could we
time to
just
write stuff down.
Try and see what the comments are, maybe we can address them.
Let's try it.
So once I have the floor, mind you, I'm not yielding the floor. I'll have the floor, so I just want to make sure
Back to that.
I'm respecting your time once I have the floor,
Back to dictate.
okay? This item is the Victorville Municipal Code that Chapter 2.20 is being revamped completely to no longer be a municipal code, but instead a policy manual that will be adopted through an ordinance, Trucking Municipal Code, which is law, and with resolution, which are written motions.
Are you reading this?
These are add to the policy manual, add to the majority.
Are you reading this?
Be aware
No.
that when municipal code becomes a policy manual, there is no longer protection of the chapter 2.20 law of the city of Victorville, because the majority with 3 votes has spoken with this ordinance that will be adopted and fully implemented. As a reminder, I have the floor until completion on my remark on Title 2 of Chapter 2.20.150, and that includes interruptions. On May 16, 2017, the city attorney submitted ordinance number 2367, an ordinance to amend Chapter 2.20 of the city's municipal code to revise and consolidate the existing city procedural rules and censorship into a comprehensive manual of the city council policies and procedures. The purpose was to stymie all council members from acting as a minority voice. Codified law under the city of Victorville in regards to council behaviors and regulations will no longer be law until the city,
Yes.
as they were in 1971 until now. In the last 4.5 decades, which is 46 years,
Excuse me,
Chapter 2.
Councilmember Gomez, we have lost a quorum, so therefore, in the absence of a quorum, as a city clerk, I have to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, so when does this meeting continue?
There's
Public hearing?
no date,
No date set right now.
no date set.
Okay.